A well-known inner-city football coach named Bill Courtney once said that he drew his greatest inspiration recognizing the remarkable individuals in your life who envision and create a world far beyond yourself. It isn't often enough that we recognize or take the time to celebrate the impact people have in our lives or how much they mean to us while they're here. That is what one incredibly thoughtful, inspired, and impassioned group of volunteers sought out to do nearly 2 years ago. That vision brought us to this day. This group was led by Mr. Harvey Rosen, a fellow Tacoman. Inspired by one man's passion, humanity, and tireless commitment to bettering the lives of the community worldwide, Harvey set out to ensure that this legacy is preserved. The man, the legacy, is Dr. Gordy Klatt. Let me just say, anyone who knows Harvey Rosen knew that this would happen without a doubt. Though the idea came from Harvey, it would not have been possible without a committee of local volunteers who set out in a grassroots effort to spread the word to our community and beyond. It is also not possible, none of this would have been possible without the generosity of donors, large and small, within the Tacoma community and beyond. Donors that included Tacoma businesses, our medical community of caregivers, volunteers around the world, as well as patients and friends of Gordy and Lou. On behalf of Mrs. Lou Klatt, who is here with us today, I would like to extend her deepest gratitude and appreciation to Mr. Harvey Rosen, the dedicated committee, the generous donors, as well as the incredibly gifted Seattle artist, Jeff Jolly, and the project manager, Myrna Orsini. I would like to have both of them please stand. Give them a round of applause. Thank you. Lou, we know that you and Gordy supported this project, this effort to create a space for our community. Though Gordy, as we affectionately call him, is not physically present today, his spirit is abundant. Gordy made the world a better place, beyond what even he could have imagined. As a physician and a caregiver, Gordy, with Lou at his side, worked tirelessly in his practice, many long nights and weekends, treating the families in our community because he wanted to improve the quality of their lives, because he wanted to end their suffering. When Gordy set out to practice medicine, he couldn't have imagined the impact he would have on the community of patients he treated daily, as well as their families. But their stories speak volumes of his compassion, love, and commitment. Nor could Gordy have imagined the effects of the day when he first stepped foot at that track at UPS. Who would have known it would have grown into Relay for Life? For Gordy, that first step was an effort to raise funds for much needed support services for the patients in his care, as well as those battling cancer in our community. He couldn't have imagined that he would create a grassroots effort and volunteer-driven event with the mission of providing education, prevention, vital research, and support services for communities worldwide. He couldn't have imagined that this one selfless act would create a groundswell of support that has inspired 3 million volunteers in 6,000 communities worldwide. Gordy didn't take that first step with any preconceived notion or idea of what the outcome would be. He just took that step. Gordy did it because if he didn't, who would? He believed that his and all of our lives have a purpose, a deep purpose. Though Dr. Klatt is most frequently recognized for his contribution in the fight against cancer and the gift of Relay for Life, his legacy is much greater. His legacy is measured in the difference he has made and the depths of his commitment to the lives of countless people he has served and cared for worldwide. Gordy's journey further fuels my resolve and my core belief that one person embodies the enormous possibility to change our world in a profound way. That we have no idea of the impact we can make if we don't try, if we don't take that first step. Because if we don't, who will? Today we gather in honor of Gordy's legacy, a legacy of hope, and to celebrate his compassion, immeasurable love of humanity, service to community, and unwavering commitment to ending suffering and curing cancer. Today, we celebrate an abundantly purpose-filled life of a great, great man. Today, we gather to dedicate a bit of ground in his honor. This will be a sacred space for our community to gather, reflect, heal, and be inspired to improve the community and the world in a meaningful and purposeful way and permanent way, as Gordy did. A space that exemplifies and embodies Gordy's vision, mission, life's work, and most importantly, his divine purpose. Let it always serve as a reminder of what one person can do if they just take that first step. If they just take that first step. It is my pleasure to introduce someone who can attest to Gordy's incredible spirit and purpose. A person who's had a professional and personal relationship with Gordy that has spanned 20 years. It is my pleasure to welcome Mrs. Karen Vial.
Thank you, Danny, for that introduction and for your eloquent remarks. I want to thank you for giving me the privilege of speaking today. I'm here in two capacities, one as a friend and patient of Gordy Klatt's and also as Vice President of the Tacoma School Board. And I want to take a moment, I think a couple of our staff are here who worked on this project. Stephen Murakami, our Chief Operating Officer, and Christy Berry, head of our construction division at Tacoma Public Schools, for their assistance in making this happen. You know, it's those of us who are in the decision-making position say, go do it, and they're the ones who went and did it, along with Myrna and the people from the foundation. So I'd like you, if you could give them a round of applause. Thank you. I thought this morning that I wish we didn't have to be here today, because I felt Gordy should still be with us, and he is with us in spirit. But we are, and we have to be, to honor a man who gave so much of himself to us. I want to thank all of you who worked so hard on this memorial since its beginning. It's truly something all of us can be proud of. And particularly, I want to thank my friend since Mason Junior High School, Harvey Rosen, for heading this up. Harvey came to me last year and said, you know, we need to do something for Gordy. And I said, absolutely. And he said, you know, the two relays have been, besides UPS, we're at Stadium in Mount Tahoma. And we looked around at Stadium, and that didn't seem to be the appropriate place for it to be. And we decided that it should be here, where Relay for Life will probably be here for as long as it wants to be, here at the Mount Tahoma Stadium. And we met with, Harvey met with the principal, Kevin Kinnear, who I should have also mentioned in that statement, and his cooperation and help. I brought it before the school board, and they said absolutely. So the land upon which this monument rests will be here forever, and it will be it will be owned by Tacoma Public Schools. It never will be moved, nor will it ever be touched, other than for to clean and make it the way we want it to be. I knew Gordy in a number of capacities. I first met him. I knew who he was, obviously everyone did when Relay for Life started, but I met him at a group meeting of the third class of the American Leadership Forum, of which we became senior fellows later when we graduated in 1991. And we did some fun. There were some amazing people in that class, and Lou knows because we used to get together at Christmas, and community leaders. And we did some amazing things in that class. We had to bond. In one of our bonding experiences, we were the last class that did this. We went to Outward Bound in Leadville, Colorado, which is at 10,000 feet. And we were required to jump in a creek at 6:30 in the morning when it had ice on it. But the hardest thing we were required to do was to climb a mountain. And that mountain was 11,000 feet, and it was Mount Galena, and a number of our classmates were struggling. And what Gordy did, as Gordy kind of person he was, he had brought his medical equipment in his backpack, and he was monitoring blood pressures and telling some people, there's no way you're going to make it up the top of this hill. And they didn't. In fact, Jeannie Darnielle and I were discussing that the other day, Senator Darnielle, she was in our class. And what happened was he was down at the bottom, and someone said, Gordy needs to be up here. For those of us who made it were recovering. And he came out so quickly, the athlete that he was, that he was up there, but he was still concerned that everybody was going to be monitoring Jerry and some of the other people that weren't doing, they were fine, but not doing so well. And then Gordy was also president of the Pierce County Medical Society during my tenure as mayor. And one of the things that we wanted to work on was smoking. To not allow smoking in, I mean, what a horrible idea. Not allow smoking in public buildings, not allow smoking anywhere where the population would be, where they could inhale secondhand smoke. So not being afraid, as my mother would say, she often wished I had a sense of fear, I said, we'll take this on. So Tacoma became, with his leadership and us being able to rally the community, became the first city in the United States to ban smoking in public places. And then I left the mayor's office, and we would see each other socially a lot and always enjoyed his company. And then in May of 1998, I was diagnosed with endometrial cancer. And my physician said, I want Dr. Klatt to be your surgeon. And I said, absolutely, I don't want anybody else. And so I went to see Gordy, and, you know, like everyone who hears those words, you have cancer, it really scares you. And we sat in his office, and he went through what he was going to do surgically, and then he said, you know, I'll be there for you no matter what the outcome is of this. And he said, we'll go through this together. And I've never forgotten that. I'm sorry if I tear up. I don't normally do this, but I had a hard time writing this today to honor this person. And I remember the day after the surgery, and it was not as advanced as everyone had thought. And he came in and with a big smile on his face to tease me because I'd had some trouble after the anesthesia, and I guess I was a little green color. And he said, I thought I'd come back when you weren't so green. And I still remember that. I said, don't make me laugh. It's going to hurt. And he said, here's the deal, kiddo. You're going to make it. You're going to be fine. And I have never forgotten that. And then over the years, we would see each other, and he'd always say, are you still doing okay? And that was 17 years ago. And Gordy, I'm still doing okay. Gordy was not only a gifted surgeon, but he understood the true meaning of the proverb, unto whom much is given, much is expected. He committed himself to finding a cure for the disease that he dealt with in his practice and later, as we all know, so gallantly and so heroic personally. Relay for Life is the most visible part of his legacy, but to me, the larger part was his example of extreme caring for his patients. Our generation was challenged by President John Fitzgerald Kennedy to be a generation of service. He epitomized that calling, and many of us who worked on this project were a part of that generation. One thing that I hope today, as I accept this gift on behalf of the Tacoma Public Schools, I hope that when students and the community see this memorial, they soak in the true meaning of it. That it does not just honor a great man, but more importantly, it honors what he stood for: courage, selflessness, integrity, and dedication to making our world a better place. Thank you, and God bless.
Thank you, Karen, for sharing a side of Gordy that many of us didn't know. I would now like to welcome Dr. Lynn Clark, local breast surgeon, caregiver, former partner of Gordy's, and longtime friend of Gordy and Lou.
Thank you, Danny. We're here today to honor Gordy and his legacy that he has left us. Gordy was humble, but a passionate man in every way, from his practice in medicine, his belief in finding a cure for cancer, running marathons, as well as entertaining us all with his jokes and his music. I first met Gordy in 1998 when I joined the medical practice he was in. I was honored to be associated with him and his dedication to service of patients in the community. As our lives evolved, we both left to start independent practices, but we covered for each other for several years. Between the two of us, we took care of the whole body. I was the upper half, he was the lower half. I won't tell you what we were going to call the practice. Throughout those years, our care of patients was similar. We believed in providing the best medical care at any time of the day or week. Gordy was always available to his patients. He also took the time to teach new doctors or students so they could become better physicians. What I learned about Gordy at that time was that he never turned a patient away. He didn't care if they had insurance or not. He believed in his role as a physician to take care of patients. I don't think he knew the word no. He never said no to anyone. He would take on the difficult cases that no one else could deal with. He always treated patients as people, a mutual respect, and I know his patients appreciated that. His care of patients was impeccable. He set the bar high for all future physicians. He cared about his patients in a special way, and they knew it. He didn't put himself on a pedestal, but he was a real person treating a person, not a patient. Medicine was constantly changing, still is, but Gordy did not let it affect the way he took care of his patients. He treated the whole person, not just their cancer. He believed in the healing power of touch. The power of touch, and as Karen said, how one comforts a cancer patient is just as important as cutting out their cancer. I was and I'm still awed at the vision Gordy had. He was always trying to make lives better for cancer patients. He wanted to find a way to cure cancer. He wanted to fund research to make a difference. I believe the idea for the first event that he did, his first run, came out of his desire to raise money for the local American Cancer Society. So he combined his passion for running with fundraising. It still amazes me how he ran and walked 83 miles around that track and raised $27,000 in 24 hours that first year. And then he turned it into an international event that has raised billions of dollars for cancer research and education. His ideas, thoughts, and actions have changed our world. You know, if you Google Gordy, the list is endless with the search. Even Wikipedia has a listing for Gordy, and it's correct. Gordy received many community service awards, including the Humanitarian Award from his alma mater, St. Thomas University. He was also awarded the Community Impact Award from the American Society of Colon and Rectal Surgeons. And that's just to name a few. It seemed like he was getting awards all the time, but he was humble. During his own battle with cancer in 2012, he was willing to share his story at the Relay here in Tacoma. If sharing his story could give someone else motivation to get through their own struggle, then it was important for him to share. He always inspired others to do more, to make a difference. He even inspired my daughters, who got involved on Hope on the Slope, another ACS event where they skied for 24 hours in the dark, cold night to raise money for cancer. As we got older, we both talked about how we could continue to care for patients when we didn't feel we should be operating anymore. We considered doing hospice or palliative care, but he was taken from us before we had a chance to implement that plan. Again, these conversations were based on the fact that he believed in caring for the whole patient and the whole person. Gordy worked day as night, every day caring for patients. But I would be remiss if I didn't mention his wife and partner in life, Lou. Lou was by his side, helping him navigate through his life. She helped him carry his vision for Relay. She orchestrated and managed his medical practice as well as his social calendar. Every Relay wanted Gordy there. They wanted him to speak. They had to choose wisely where they could be and at what time. We have to give Lou credit for doing so much for Gordy so he could continue to do so much for us in the community and the world. Many a time there'd be a party at their home and you'd ask, where's Gordy? Oh, he's taking care of a patient. He'll be here. And he did always show up later with a smile. Patients always came first. Patients felt self and cared for when they were in his hands. If we're remembering Gordy, we have to talk about the person and his music. He brought smiles to all of us as he played the piano or the accordion. Even at my own daughter's graduation party, I believe he was in chemo at the time. Before we knew it, he was over at the piano entertaining all of us. Even now, when I mention Gordy's name in a conversation, a smile comes across every person I talk to. It might be a nurse, a patient, a fellow doctor, operating room staff, or personal friends. A nurse told me the other day that Gordy never got angry or demanding. He took the time to explain what was needed for his patients. He was forever the educator. He was always educating staff to make them care for patients in a better way. The OR staff and nursing staff in the hospitals loved him, and they felt respected by Gordy. He was always smiling. He was passionate about being a physician. He loved what he did. Gordy has taught us all to reach for the stars. He has shown us that the difference one person can make in the world. He left us too soon from this world, but fortunately his mark is here and will be carried forward by all of us. I leave you with one thought, which reminds me of Gordy. Some people come into our lives and quietly go. Others stay for a while and leave footprints on our hearts, and we are never the same. Gordy, we will miss you. You will always be remembered in our hearts, and we thank you for making a difference in our lives and the world. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is David Rossholm, and I'm a volunteer. I have the great privilege to share with you the words of Dr. Scott Steele, who is a colorectal surgeon at Madigan, was mentored by Gordy, and considers Gordy a friend. He couldn't be here, but he gave us these great words for us to share. Good afternoon. I'm sorry I cannot be here for this incredible dedication for an incredible man. It is only fitting that he would have a monument, for he was truly a titan, not only in the realm of surgery, but also as a person. His caring nature extended well beyond his patients to just about everyone he interacted with. I know that I am a better individual for having known Gordy, and my patients receive better care due directly to the things that he taught me. My best to the organizers of this wonderful event for this considerate and fitting gesture, and love to his wife, Lou, who was there as his never-wavering rock through it all. Thank you very much. Kindest regards, Dr. Scott Steele. There are two things that I love about Gordy's story. His gift to the world, Relay for Life, was born of an act of defiance, really. In 1984, the surgeon, and ACS volunteer, by the way, was facing programs his patients depended on being cut. There was no bad guy in that. It was that old familiar enemy that we have faced and that often stands in the way of goodness and light. It is just reality, the way things are. In the face of that, and this is where the defiance comes in, and pardon my almost French, in the face of that, he said, well, F that. No, that's not going to happen. That's my personal version of it. The reality might be a little bit different, but I like that story. He was told if the resources were there, the programs would survive. His patients and their lives would all continue to benefit. So he set about doing that. He called upon his friends and colleagues and community and committed his own time and incredible effort. In doing so, he created what would become Relay for Life, and he also created the very model of a true grassroots, wonderful effort to make the community a better place, a model that has endured and has been a world-changing success. Because of that moment and that incredible effort, because of that divine and magical inspiration, and Gordy's unwillingness to accept defeat, we now have what you have here. Relay for Life, a community that has come together, friends, families, strangers, businesses, regular people, all for one thing, all with their own hope and wish for their own light in the darkness. Here and in thousands of communities around the world, hope created from nothing. Literally millions of lives saved, millions of families not torn apart. Oh, and also we're winning the fight. Cancer will be defeated. Not one, but all. Sooner than you think. The plague of plagues will be vanquished for everyone. Look what one person did. Look what we're all doing. Without the goodness of people and the heart, soul, and spirit of volunteerism, it wouldn't have worked. It depended on goodness and love. And here it is. It's all around us for everyone to see and everyone to feel. The second thing I love about Gordy's story is what happened after that first relay. Now, this was a small event over an anonymous weekend on a May weekend, on a May day in 1985. It attracted a lucky few. It was not written in stone that it would become a worldwide phenomenon, or that it even would occur again. The goal had been met, after all. Perhaps it was watching the way his friends and family smiled and congregated and came together and made it something more than he imagined or intended. Perhaps it was a state of grace and vision brought on by his exhaustion. But at some point, he wrote a check, not from his bank account, but from his heart and soul. He committed himself to this thing. To this light and darkness that he created, he would grow it. He would care for it and feed it. He would bring people in. He would spread this idea. He would give time and resources and miss out on many life moments. But he knew that all of it was required to keep the light shining and to spread its warm glow. If he'd known it would become all of this, it would have been a much easier decision, a much easier thing to commit to. But there was nothing to indicate that it would. He just went on faith. And he did it for 30 years, day in, day out, around the country, around the world. He was the founder, he built it, and then he became its ambassador to everyone around the world. He let himself be celebrated because he knew it furthered the message and helped spread the light. Still, this is a difficult thing for a man so humble. Yet another sacrifice. He was proud to be the founder, but at heart, he was always a volunteer. As much as his moment of defiance and inspiration was lightning in a bottle, his unwavering, tenacious commitment for the next 30 years is what truly makes Gordy Klatt one of humanity's true heroes. At this time, I'd like to mention that Gordy was not alone in this world-changing crusade. His family was his inspiration, and his rock in this life, and I believe forever, is his amazing wife, Lou. I did a little research before today. When you look at the word strength in the dictionary, a little bit further down, it says that when combined with love, beauty, and grace, you get Lou. Lou, thank you for being here. I'd like to ask that we all just give Lou a little example of our love, gratitude, and humanity. Thank you, Lou. Lou told us that it was very important to her and her family that we make every effort to thank Mr. Harvey Rosen, the committee, all the donors in our community, and the very talented artists who made this possible. This effort was begun years ago. Gordy was aware of it, and he wanted to make sure, as was consistent with his humility, that it was about volunteers, as well as marking the significance of Relay and this community. Volunteerism is an amazing thing. I got into the game later in life, but in a short time it has made me a better person. And I watch fellow volunteers literally blossom in front of my very eyes because of the good they are doing in the world. Relay is a result of one person's gifts and inspiration and the goodness and spirit of thousands and thousands of volunteers. The artwork reads Relay for Life to signify Relay's birthplace and the man who created it. But this monument is for Relay volunteers and all volunteers everywhere. It is for the light that they created. There is an old saying, go towards the light, whatever that may signify for you. That is a good thing to be sure. It supposes that we need the light, and sometimes that is true. But what if we are the light? What if we change our thinking and flip that paradigm a little? Instead of seeking the light, we have the belief that we, as a person or a volunteer or a member of humanity, can be the light. And what if we then go and seek the darkness and bring our light to it? Light does need to be gathered on occasion, but more than anything, light needs to be spread. We've all seen it, the instinct that we have when someone falls or calls for help. We rush toward them. Darkness and need are not always this clear, but I believe that instinct is always there in all of us. Whether it is an act of defiance or love, know that you have light. Each one of you has light and is light. Bring it to the darkness you see. You may not create another Relay for Life, but that was never the point. Sometimes we give a hug because a hug is needed, not to get a hug back. Ladies and gentlemen, our world needs a hug, and that will never change. Gordy, your faith gives us faith. Your strength gives us strength. Your hope gives us hope. And your love gives us love. May we keep Gordy in our hearts forever. May we celebrate and join his spirit of giving to humanity and community. May we remember that what one person can do and what we are all capable of together when we take that first step. Join me in lifting our hearts and a smile to Dr. Gordy Klatt, whose light now shines around the world. To formally dedicate and open this beautiful artwork to the public, I'd like to ask Lou Klatt, Harvey Rosen, and the committee to please join us as we officially reveal this beautiful artwork. Once again, we'd like to thank the committee and the artists and all the donors who made this possible. It is an honor greater than me to present to you and the world, dedicated to Dr. Gordy Klatt, the community of Tacoma, Relay for Life volunteers, and volunteers everywhere, this most beautiful piece of art. We invite you to come up and take a closer look, see what's been done. Afterward, we'd like to invite all committee members, donors, and invited guests to join us at the north end of the Relay for Life track in our hospitality tent, we'd like to ask that you make a luminaria bag for Gordy, sign a guest book, and share your thoughts of the man. We thank you all for coming. It's been truly an honor. Thank you very much.